When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart and be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can be.
All right, hello guys. Is everything good? If there's any connection problems, you'll have to let me know so that I can fix them. But on my side, it looks like everything is fine. All right, cool. Okay, let's get started. So, as you might already have figured out, today we're going to be talking about character design and appeal. Right? So, first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to make a new screen. All right. So let's just assume that you've got your form down, like we discussed last week. So you've got your character. I'm going to draw that same teddy bear that we did last week. Just that little character, right? Really good, versatile character, and can be used as an example for this week's thing. Okay, cool. Let's just give it eyes and a nose and mouth. All right, cool. There's our teddy bear. All right. So, what I want to talk about today is how, assuming you've got your form, your character shape, which we discussed last week, whether it be a car, a human, a giraffe, or whatever it is, you wanna think about what makes that character interesting, what makes that character unique. All right. So how we're going to do that is we're going to give it some detail, right? Details that make your character different from any other teddy bear or any other cow or any other giraffe or whatever it is that your character is, right? And most of you or some of you, when thinking about making a character, will sort of just go with your gut feeling, your intuition. Say, all right, let's give it let's give it a bow tie. Okay, so I'll put it over here. Let's give it something that just makes it look interesting, right? But you don't really give a lot of thought into what makes that character special, and particularly something that will catch people's eyes, not just any old teddy bear. So if you want to make a character really stand out, you've got to make it so that it has contrast, all right? And what I mean by that is, take this example of our teddy bear here, okay? So I've given it its detail, which is a bow tie, right? And that's all well and good. But if I wanted to make this character, this teddy bear, even more appealing, I can do one of several things, right? I can give it some exaggeration, or what we call contrast, okay? That would make the character stand out more, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the bow tie. That's a good idea, okay? The bow tie is a good idea. But what we're going to do is we're going to do either one of two things. We could make the bow tie incredibly tiny, all right? That makes it really cute and in a way a little bit silly. Or we could make the bow tie absolutely massive, right? And this would just make it so outrageous that it does in fact give it appeal. And in any of these situations, any of these examples, you've got a character that has a noticeable trait, in which case is the bow tie, and because we made it stand out a lot, either by making it really small or really big, all right, it makes the character interesting, okay? And that's what your characters should be, okay? So I'm going to assume that you already have a character in mind that you'd like to draw, or you already have the form of that character, whether it's like a cat or a vehicle or whatever it is, and you want to make it you might want to make it stand out, right? Want to make it cute, want to make it silly, serious, or whatever it is, okay? Rule number one of putting detail or making appeal on your characters is don't overdo it, right? Let me just erase this bow tie so I can demonstrate, okay? So, what I mean by that is, okay, let me just draw back the arms, okay? So here's our base character, and what we're going to do is we're going to overdo it, okay? We're going to add too much detail to make this absolutely ridiculous, right? So if we use the same bow tie concept, okay, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to obviously put that bow tie in the center and then put one on the ear, right? And then we're going to put one on the other ear, okay? Then we're going to put one on his arm, all right? And as you can see, the more detail I add to this character, the more ridiculous it gets, and the more, I guess, unappealing you would say, because there's just too much stuff. The eye doesn't know where to look, right? So you've got all these bow ties on this character, right? But it crowds out the eye, and you don't know what point of detail to look at. So it becomes very ineffective to add all this detail without having any one of these traits, one of these bow ties that actually stand out to audiences or your viewers, right? So, rule number one, don't add too much detail, okay? Let me just do that. Don't add too much. Okay, so I'm going to erase our little bear here. I'm going to switch the example. Now we're going to use a different character. We're going to use a cat, all right? I've improved my cat that you saw last week. after some careful consideration, I'm not going to use a pear shape this time for the body. All right, it's a good form. And we can add 2 ears. Okay, there we go. And some little arms, very cute little arms, and then a little tail. All right. Now we're going to give it eyes. Okay, so there's our cat. Now, we already know that obviously don't overdo the details, so we're going to pick out one. In my experience, using one trait, one point of appeal is more than enough on a simple character like this to make it stand out from any other character that you make, right? And to give it appeal. So we're going to choose one trait, and we could use a bow tie, for example, or this time I'm going to use a bell, all right? And we're going to think about, well, I'm going to think about where I want this trait to be and where it would stand out if I were to draw it, if I had to place the trait on one part of the character's body, all right? So I could, of course, do the same thing with the bear and place the bell on its neck, right? That's all right. That's a good way of doing it. Okay, and that's pretty cute. It's good, right? Or I could mix it up a little bit. Think about, okay, but lots of cats have bells on their necks, and that's kind of boring, right? If you always see the same, all the cats have always put their bells on the neck. So why don't I try and put it on its tail instead? All right, and I could experiment and do it like that, and it might look silly, okay? In this case, yeah, it does look a bit silly. And the problem with putting a bell, in this case, on the character's back, on the character's tail, is that it's going to be quite invisible because most people aren't going to be looking at the cat's tail, right? They're going to be looking at its head, its ears, its neck, that kind of area, okay? That's the place where the attention of the eyes is drawn to when people are looking at this character. So I'm going to say, all right, let's not put it on the character's tail, let's put it on its ear, all right? That could be interesting. And, it's all right, it works all right. But what if I make it even bigger? All right, now I'm going to start thinking less about details and start thinking about exaggeration, how I can exaggerate this one trait. And, I could say, all right, let's make this bell huge, okay? And hang it from the ear, right? You got to experiment a little bit and see what kind of trait and what placement fits you as the artist. How it should look on your character, right? So you do have to play around and see what fits right, okay? This looks a bit silly now because the bell is so huge compared to its head, right? So I'd say no, let's not do that, okay? And I have a better idea instead. We could place it on its arm, right? And then maybe have it hang from his limb, his hand, and just put that bell right there. Right? I think that's good, okay? That looks pretty good because it's unexpected. That's the first thing. People don't usually expect a cat to be holding a bell, right? And secondly, I've made it so that the eye of the audience is immediately drawn to the area where the bell is placed, right? So that means that the character now has appeal because it's doing something that the audience doesn't really expect, or is interesting to the audience because it's different from other things, right? So the two things you need to take note of for this example is obviously exaggeration, like we discussed before, and simplify your details. So what you want to do is, it's good to pick out maybe, as I mentioned before, one trait, one or maybe two traits. In this case, I've done one because my character is relatively simple, okay? And exaggerate them, but keep it simple, right? So you want to make it so that that one trait stands out to the audience or the viewer, right? But you want to make it so that that trait is also not too complicated. In like we discussed before, where if you reuse the bow tie trait so many times, right, on the bear character, it just crowds out the character and it doesn't look good at all. Okay, so that's one. So don't add too much stuff. All right, take one trait, simplify it, and exaggerate it. Then you're going to that's the secret to making a very appealing character. Right? Hopefully that's understandable. Okay, let's see. What's next? All right, so let's make a new page. Okay. All right, so oh, by the way, everything you see on the stream, it's not going to be in real time, but you can actually go back and watch the stream again if you want, because everything in this stream is going to be recorded, and you can view past streams. So that should be useful if you forget anything and you want to go back and check it out, right? So next point, we're going to talk about now style, all right? So there's on style, all right, there's a couple of things. When you make a character and you want to give it a specific style, right, you want to think about whether it's, cute, serious, or funny. Okay, whoops, that's wrong. Funny. Okay. Basically, you want to give it an emotion, all right? That's the essence of style, okay? And if your style is uninteresting, this is usually because you haven't thought about what kind of emotion you want to give it, okay? So previously, as you saw earlier, that little cat I did is pretty cute. So that my kind of my thought process for making that appeal is I want to make that character cute, okay? But let's say we wanted to make it serious, right? We wanted to make it like a very very realistic kind of cat. Then the style would completely change, and I might not even be considering the same traits. Like I wouldn't even put a bell on a serious cat, for example, because that might not be something that makes it serious looking, right? But the cool thing about style is that you can mix and match, right? What I mean by that is you can actually have something that's both cute and funny, or cute and serious, or serious and funny, or cute and serious, right? So let me just move this aside. It's good to take note. And I'm going to draw. I'm going to use a teddy bear example this time, okay? But I'm going to change things up so that we're going to just give it a very distinct style, okay? So I'm just going to do that, and same form we did before. Remember, I'm reusing all these forms because this concept of appeal, what I'm talking about today, applies to any kind of form. It doesn't matter what kind of character you're making. These are all good principles to keep in mind whenever you're making any sort of character. So that's why I'm using the same characters over and over again. So, but this head is a little bit too big. Okay, let's give it a round head. All right, that's good. All right, so I'm not going to do the face just yet because it has something to do with we're going to decide upon what kind of style we want before we make any more details. But this is basically the form of our bear. And now I'm going to pick up two styles, okay, two styles. I'm going to say, let's go serious and funny, okay? All right. This is going to look a bit ridiculous, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. So what I'm going to do now, because I've chosen these two styles, I'm going to give it one or two traits that make this character both funny and serious, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is make it funny, right? And it's quite easy to make things funny because usually things that are funny are extremely exaggerated. So, for example, they either have really tiny heads and really massive bodies, or the opposite. You basically exaggerate one trait relative to the other, and that makes it funny usually, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the head super small, and the body super big in comparison. Okay, so I'm actually going to erase that and give it a massive body, okay, and a tiny head. All right. Okay. Now we have. I'm also going to give this massive ears because for the sake of exaggeration. Obviously, you can play around with these things, see what's comfortable with what your vision of what you're making. But this is the way I'm going to do it now. It looks a bit like a mouse, I know. But let's keep going with this, okay? Now, the serious part. Okay, and what's going to happen is when I add the serious part, because of the combination of both serious and funny, the style usually tends towards funny when you mix up both serious and funny because, well, here's a good explanation for it. When you think about something funny, but you try to keep a straight face or you try to keep it serious, the more you think about the serious part, often the funnier it gets. So we're going to use that through that kind of line of reasoning. Funny generally overrides serious when the two are combined together. Okay, and you'll soon see what I mean by that. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and start working on the face because the face is going to make it serious, but at the same time extremely funny. Okay, and what I mean by that is that I'm actually going to give it a serious face, but it's going to be a human face. Okay, so obviously you can imagine how that's going to turn out, right? Okay. All right. So now you can. Um, this looks more ridiculous than I expected. Okay. So this is what I've done here is I've obviously the body is ridiculous, right? The body is exaggerated, but I've made the face serious, okay, but still using the form of a teddy bear, right? So if you were to take out everything except the face would look margin. Well, okay, I made it a little bit more funny than it should be because I've added the little bear nose, which obviously doesn't fit in with um, the human face. But otherwise, if you just look at the eyes, for example, the eyes are typical of a human eyes, right? And that would be what our serious element. Obviously, it's not very exaggerated. So but when it's combined with the funny bit, which is like the exaggerated body, the character becomes really, really, really funny, right? So in a way, serious plus funny, that sort of just compounds the humor. It just makes it even funnier, right? So there we go. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a trait uh, because we've only changed the face and the body. We're going to add a little trait that makes it compounds this effect, right? So I'm going to give it a bow tie, right? But now I'm going to make the bow tie extremely small, okay? And then I'm going to put it on a neck band like that. And there's our character. It looks silly, right? But that's the point because, as we discussed earlier, we weren't trying to make this a particularly cute character. It just by the combining the two styles that we defined, serious and funny, this just happened, and it's in a way it's a happy accident because I didn't even expect it to look this hilarious, but that's a good thing, right? So have a play around with styles. Obviously, we only used serious and funny. If we did it the other way around, I'm going to erase this now. And let's say we go for cute and funny. Okay, let's go for cute and funny, right? System. Okay, let's go for cute and funny. Right, let's use our cat this time because we used a bear last time. All right, again, like that. Okay. Now let's have a look. All right, so let's start with the cute trait. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use. In fact, I'm going to reuse the cute face. That's going to be our point of appeal for the cute style. But instead, I'm going to give it a funny body. Okay. So I'm going to actually exaggerate this. Let's go the other way around this time. I'm actually going to make the body super small and the head massive. Okay. So let's do that. And okay, let's just do that. And the arms are going to be super small and the legs are tiny because the body is small, right? And then obviously the head is massive. Okay, there we go. All right. Now I'm going to give it the cute face. And as you can see, we, through the exaggeration of the, let's do that. Through the exaggeration of the funny aspect, using the funny style, right? What was originally cute actually becomes even cuter, right? Because the combining of these two styles in this way just makes it, just compounds the cute aspect, all right? Now, this is probably because of the way I've done it, because I've made the head bigger than the body. If it was the other way around, you know, the cute style might override the funny bit. Oh, sorry, I mean the funny bit might override the cute style, right? But it really depends on the combination of how you use these styles. In this case, I made it so that the head's massive. So what actually happens is that even though we're using these two styles in equal proportion, the cute bit overrides the funny style, okay? All right, hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. We've got 6 minutes. Okay, cool. So let's do a different character now. Let's do a different example. We know how style works, okay? So that's all good. So let me just keep that down. I'm just gonna make a new page. Okay. Okay, so we talked a little bit about exaggeration, okay? But I haven't actually mentioned how you can exaggerate things, right? So we did talk about, for example, size, okay? But there are other things you can exaggerate to make your character look appealing, right? And one thing I should note about size is that it's not a matter of just making your character bigger, right? Or smaller, right? It's the relative size of the body parts, of the form of that character, okay? So that means that obviously you can have a very small character. You could have a mouse, okay? Right? That's like that, okay? That's not a very good mouse, okay? And that's a really small character, okay? But relatively, its body could be huge, okay? Now, that doesn't mean the character is massive, right? It just means the body is big compared to the head, right? And if you do that, that's already exaggeration, okay? What you don't want to do is to keep the body parts the same size, but like manipulate the size as a whole, because when you do that, it doesn't make it exaggerated. It just makes your character bigger or smaller, okay? So important thing you need to know is size is relative, okay? Relative, that means that compared to the other body parts, how big is your size going to be of that particular body part and how exaggerated it is compared to the rest of the body, okay? Or the form, right? Because it could be a car, as I mentioned, or a vehicle. Right, so size is one thing, but the other thing you might want to note is that's not the only way you can exaggerate things, okay? The other thing you could exaggerate is stuff like, oops, you can also exaggerate the level of detail. Okay, now I did mention, let me just separate the two concepts. I did mention that you don't want to add massive amounts of detail if you're using a trait that is simple and provides one point of appeal, right? But say, for example, your goal of your character is to make him look extremely is to make him look like a piece of garbage, for example, right? So I know there's a Pokemon that looks a bit like a what's called Garbodor, right? Let's try and draw that. I'm not going to actually draw Garbodor, but imagine if you had a character, right, that was just one huge garbage bag, okay, right? So obviously, let me just details, okay. So obviously, the concept of this character is that it's extremely disgusting and dirty, right? So instead of exaggerating the size of the character, like for example its eyes, or let's just give it some eyes, right? Instead of exaggerating the size of its body parts, right? In fact, this character might not even have that many body parts because it's just a garbage bag, right? You could instead exaggerate the kind of detail that occurs on its surface. So, for example, if it had a lot of just garbage all over its body, right? You exaggerate that by crowding out all other elements, right? Of you make that trait the point of appeal. So what I'm going to do is I can't really draw garbage. I don't really know. I'm just going to do some random garbage marks to make it look disgusting. Hopefully that carries the point. Okay. Anyway, the point is that you make that the point of appeal, and yes, you do have to add details like that to make it clear, but that's where the exaggeration comes in. The exaggeration on that particular level of detail makes your character makes that the point of appeal of your character. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I kind of ham-fisted the way I said that, so that's not. Hopefully, I'll go back and explain it better next time. Hopefully. Okay, so that's exaggeration. All right. Now we got 10 minutes. I did promise last time that we'd use the last 10 minutes of the class to answer any questions. So why don't we do that now? If there's anything you want to ask about today's class, or anything you want to ask me, then you're welcome to do so. All right, let's go. Draw a Reaper. Okay. Let me consider that. Let's have a look. All right. So I'm assuming it's a Grim Reaper. All right. One thing. Okay. So with this, let's do that. Okay. So I'm just gonna do the very basic body shape of the Reaper. You guys know what the Grim Reaper is? Hopefully you do. But if you don't, it's like the personification of death. All right. But it's been used in popular culture so much so that it just looks really silly. Some people have used the Grim Reaper in very comic scenarios, so let's go for that actually. So what I'm going to do is we're going to use the concepts of the the style. All right, so we're going to make this cute and funny. All right, so we're going to make a cute and funny Reaper. And one thing I noticed is that to make a cute Reaper, right, you just don't show its face. Okay, so that means you hide that through the hood. Okay, so yes, the Reaper has a scythe. That's correct. So we're going to draw that. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so what can we make? How can we stylize this to make this more cute and funny? Because traditionally the Reaper is quite serious, right? So I'm going to think about that, and what we could do is we could give it really, really short arms, right? So like little kids' arms, okay, or like teddy bear's arms, right? And what we could do is obviously one thing. I think the Grim Reaper usually hovers over the ground or something. So we'll keep that. So we don't need to give it legs. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to give it 2 little eyes. Okay. But the rest of the face is obscured from view, so you can't see its anything else of it. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to actually just alter that a little bit. Oh, also, everything I said so far is going to be really helpful for game design if you want to design characters for games, because often what I've been describing so far is an extremely simplified version of character design. Obviously, because you don't have. If I were to explain, all the things that you could discuss about character design, it would take multiple hours to describe that. So I've simplified it a lot, and anything you learn here, the thing about why this is good for game design is because often your characters in games are very simple, right? Because no one spends most games that are produced nowadays have characters that need to be animated multiple times, and you can't afford to add so many details on those characters, right? So anything that is simple and effective in terms of appeal that you design is going to be very useful for games. Yeah. Anyway, that's our Reaper. I think it's all right. Actually, I'm going to keep it like that, right? I was going to add a little bit more detail, but I think this is fine because it conveys the purpose, right? In fact, I'm going to change the little hands because it has a cloak and it doesn't. It would be more interesting if we just add a little cloak hands instead, right? That's more interesting. Okay, cool. People have been telling me to draw. No, one person has been telling me to draw Goku. I Goku is a pretty hard character, and I wouldn't be able to do justice to him. So I'm afraid I have to decline. But I can draw. We can draw a character based on Goku, right? Let's do that. I don't have a reference for Goku right now, so that's going to be a bit difficult. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a character that's a bit like Goku, not quite, okay? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a human proportion forms, okay? So we're going to use a human body. And let's see what we can do with this, okay? Let's make this character a bit like a martial. Goku's a little bit like a martial artist in terms of the way he dresses. So let's actually play around with this concept of martial arts. If you've seen any of the traditional costumes from martial arts like karate gis or taekwondo, the sort. So let's see what we can do. what should this character do? We could have him charge a Spirit Bomb, okay? Because that's interesting, all right? And we could do it in a very dramatic way. I'm just going with what I think about the pose. Nothing really spectacular at the moment. Quite spontaneous, actually. Let's go with, let's see. Let's have him, yeah, let's have him charge backwards, okay? Charge a Spirit Bomb backwards. So he looks a bit like, whatever the ability is. I'm not sure. Okay. Now I'm gonna have to. This isn't a really good pose. The pose is a little bit stiff. Whoops. But I'm gonna go with this anyway, just for the sake of time. And he looks a bit more like a wizard charging up some kind of spell. It's all good. Okay, so his costume is using a karate. His costume is a bit like a monk, a martial arts user. So, by the way, I'm not actually drawing Goku. I'm drawing something based off Goku, so it's not going to look like him at all. If that wasn't clear. Okay, let's give him that. Looks like someone from Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you guys watched that, that's a interesting show. Now, the thing I don't like about this pose is, yeah, I know this is actually a Kamehameha, but the thing I don't like about this pose is that I had him standing up because it was the most efficient way of posing this character. Um, but I realized that he really should be crouching to do this because let me just explain. He should have been his pose should have been like this, right? Because the way he would be charging up the attack, right? Just so you know, this is his body. He would have been. It would have been more effective if he was crouching. Okay, so that's why. Yeah, I don't like the pose, but never mind about that. I'm gonna keep going with this character. Finish up soon. Give him that belt. Oh, by the way, guys, you can leave whenever you want. The class ends at 4:40, so technically we have like 1 minute. So I'll finish this up real quick. And I'm going to go in and make his face. Give him that frown, that stern frown, and just have him yell or something. I don't know. Scream. Right, give him a nose. He doesn't need a nose. We'll leave it at that. Okay. This is a pretty silly character now I think about it. Give him some spiky hair, like Goku. I don't know. I don't have reference for Goku, so this is not going to be based off him at all, in any single way. Alright. There we go. That's our character. Totally not Goku at all, but it's the best I could do. Okay, we did a little bit of manipulation with the character. Okay, played around. All right, so that's the end of class. So we're just out of time. Thank you for coming. I haven't decided just yet what next class is going to be in terms of the content, but hopefully you'll come back next week and we will talk about more stuff. Thank you for coming, and I hope to see you next time. See ya.